Well, here we go. and not to borrow from Dan Abrams, although he's a good guy to borrow from, but this was a strange show because there wasn't one of those long threads in this one tonight where you kept going back to it two and three times. It was just really one of those where you didn't have. It's somewhat like a basketball game, and I was a TV sportscaster for 25 years, and it's like having a basketball game that doesn't have a lot of steals for breakaway baskets. This is one that was more of a, I guess you would call it a workmanlike night. Foxes and birds and bears. Oh my, you know, it was. I think though one of the things we take away from this one tonight on Live PD was the fact that for the third straight week, although this was not as violent as it was in the past, but here you go again with something that happens in front of children, and I just cannot grasp that, and it's adults who are acting like children. And the situation toward the end of the show, with the argument over the stolen bike, I thought they were going to bring Steve Harvey out and let's have the family feud before it's over. But in front of children and embarrassing themselves, and of all things, a former corrections officer who is going to misbehave to the point that Deputy Van Patten then is having to call him, "Quitty, get over here." Hey, boy, I'm telling you, I would not want to take on Van Patten any time where there was a chance that it could get physical and violent. My goodness, she is an excellent deputy. But tonight, and then we had a couple of field variety tests, as I love to remember about that guy that was arrested in Richland County. They still got to bring him back at some point. But tonight, it was just one of those where, and we didn't really have what you would call, it was not the case of the night that just absolutely knocked you over or knocked you out. But we saw a lot of times this is just the routine police work that you see on a Friday night. Tomorrow night could be totally different. But I wanted to share with you one specific thing. If you go to a site online, rtdna.org. I'll tell you that again, rtdna.org. You go there, and I want you to take an opportunity to look at a post, and the organization is Radio, Television, Digital News Association. I used to be a TV news director, and one of the things I'm extraordinarily concerned about is the immense amount of pressures that media have covering a lot of the things like you saw tonight, and particularly when they get very violent and tragic. And there's so much post-traumatic stress that comes after that has never really truly been addressed. And so if you go there is a post that says, "Newsroom Depression, One News Director's Story." It is a story that I was asked to write for that online publication. And one reason I would like for you to read it is because the same type of thing is needed for police officers, first responders, deputies, troopers, all across the board that repeatedly are in violent, heavy crime filled, and particularly the ones that are so emotional dealing with children, that is just absolutely so awful that they have to deal with. And they don't just go home at night and just blow this off. I had a very good friend who is a high-ranking police officer who told me of a period of depression that he went through 20 years ago when there was a high murder rate in his community, the highest murder rate that had ever been. And he told me that it is the very same thing that I described in this online story. So if you get a chance, once again, it is rtdna.org. Tomorrow night, maybe it'll be totally different. We'll see some of the things. And I think probably we got used to and introduced to some new officers tonight, which I think is good. But I know a lot of people probably miss Mastriani and Kevin Lawrence tonight. But, they deserve a week off every once in a while, and they did a great job last week in the studio. So anyway, I'll look to see all of you tomorrow night after Live PD and with the memes during the show. So until then, this is Steve Beverly saying, remember the famous words of Don Hudlow, who said, there are an awful lot of naysayers in this world, and they've all been vaccinated with lemon juice. I will see you tomorrow night.